Hey y'all, so I'm so glad y'all all came out to our food versus fitness class tonight. And so we want to thank the Prickly Hippie. They are right next door, right here to Lost Pizza. They do make keto, gluten-free, sugar-free, grain-free goodies and treats that we can have. I know we always like, what can we eat? I want something sweet. Well, they have things over there that will not hurt you. They do use monk fruit. They can provide cakes, anything that you need to fit you. So we have some yummy cake poppers over there, some cookie dough bites. We also have some Reese's peanut butter cups. And so everything is good. It's not gonna hurt you. And also we have little goodies since you came. You bring this card to them and you do get a little discount. You get 5% off. And so you just hand them the card and you tell them that you are gluten-free, grain-free, and all that jazz. And they will take good care of you. But we're so thankful for them for partnering with us and to make life easier for us who are choosing to go more of a healthy way of living. And so that's very rare to find a place that will bake sweets and goods for us. And so we're just thankful and we're just grateful. So
Alrighty, folks, I think we're going to go ahead and get started here. So, in case y'all for some reason don't know, I'm Jordan Townsend. I'm one of our practitioners and the nutritionist here at Naturally You. So I just kind of help do our food talks, help people understand nutrition, because again, teaching you and the science side of it is one thing, but giving you stuff that you can use at the grocery store and at restaurants and at home is what I really more pride myself on doing. I want to give you things that are actually applicable so that when you go to wherever, you go across the country, you go on vacation, you know what to do. You don't have to say, I don't know if that's okay or this might make me feel bad. So that's why we try to do these different free classes. And like I said, we're going to try to start doing these at least once a quarter on some type of different topic. We've already done hidden grains and sugars, we've done facts about fat, and this time we're doing food versus fitness. Because again, as y'all have probably heard, especially within y'all's generation that's mostly in here, is you got to work out, right? That's the only way to lose weight is you got to get in the gym, you got to grind, you got to sweat, you got to work all this stuff off. And if you're not losing weight, it's your fault because you're lazy and you're not working hard enough. Well, turns out that might not be entirely true. And that's some of the stuff we're going to kind of go into tonight, is explain why is that not true? What's the actual science and stuff behind that, but in a way that's easy for an average person to understand. So the other thing about this too is these aren't like your normal, probably typical talks. If y'all have any questions, if anything comes up and y'all want me to expand on something or anything else, just let me know. Just raise your hand. This is an interactive type thing because I want to make sure it almost functions as an educational session too, not just some information, but your specific questions too. So the first place I want to start, especially when it comes to food versus fitness, is the old calories in, calories out. Now, how many of y'all have actually heard about that? Right? That was almost the gold standard of nutrition science, especially going way back to even like the 50s when we first started looking at vitamins and discovering these different things that are actually in food. But what they found was if you keep your calories lower coming in than they're going, or more importantly, going out than are coming in, you will lose weight. Now that is true. But as y'all probably noticed, not all calories are created equal, are they? So that's what I kind of want to start to get into is you got your three macronutrients. Everybody knows about carbs, fat, and protein. Well, the thing about carbs, fat, and protein is they're basically three completely different fuels. The easiest way to really think about this, carbohydrates are sort of your jet fuel. That's your fastest, most efficient, hottest burning fuel. It goes fast and it works easily. But the problem is as soon as you run out of jet fuel, you need to put more jet fuel in almost immediately if you want to keep that body working. Protein's sort of your in-between, sort of your traditional gasoline. Gets the job done, going to give you a good amount of bang for your buck. Then there's fat. And as y'all probably noticed, at least in the last decade here, usually it was about 2008, 2010, we got hit with the keto wave, where everybody's talking about high fat, high this, high that. Well, y'all probably remember when fat would kill you, right? If you had even just a piece of butter on your toast, you may have a heart attack in the restaurant. Well, it turns out when we were giving people that information, we were cutting out an entire group of macronutrients, meaning it's very important to your body that you eat fat. Now, of course, the types, the amounts, and all those other things play an effect. But cutting out completely one thing is never going to be doable or even reasonable for a diet. So the last one, fat, is more your diesel fuel. That's the one that slowly burns. So that's what ultimately happens. This is why all calories in and just calories out doesn't matter. Because if all your calories come from candy, you're not going to lose weight. And not only are you not going to lose weight, you're going to be hungry pretty much 24/7, 365. Turns out that's how sugar and carbs work. That's not you. That's not you and your willpower. That's not you don't have self-control. That's not you're lazy. That's how biology works. Protein, as y'all have probably noticed, you get a cup about halfway through a steak, what happens? You start slowing down. More importantly, if you get into something like cheesecake or even guacamole, what happens? You get a couple chips in, you stop. So what we've started to find and what we kind of have always known is some foods make you hungry, some foods make you not hungry. So the thing is, if you look around our food landscape in America, what is it mostly? It's carbs and sugar everywhere. So, yeah, exactly. You think it's you. You think, man, I can't go 10 minutes without being hungry. What did you eat? Was it something high protein, high fat, or was it something high carb? So that's what I kind of want to get into and kind of expand on a little bit is how different each of these things are. Because I like to start too with the whole, as y'all see on every nutrition label, how many calories a day are you supposed to have? It's all based on a 2,000 calorie diet when they're giving you those percentages. This is based off a 2,000 calorie diet. So that's an ideal diet. The reason that's what they want you to be your ideal is most people's basal metabolic rate. Does that mean anything to y'all? You know what I'm talking about? If it doesn't, basal metabolic rate is the calories that it takes to run your body. So if you laid in bed and didn't even open your eyes for an entire day, you're going to burn usually between about 1,000 and 1,500 calories. That's the average person's basal metabolic rate. So that extra 500-ish they gave you is including, hopefully you're exercising, you are active, you're doing something. So that's why all our standards go back to that 2,000 calorie diet. And you'll probably also know, most people eat way more than 2,000 calories. Why? They're eating high carb foods. Well, if you eat high carb foods, not only do you now crave more of those things, that fuel source is already gone. So that's where you end up getting sort of caught in the vicious cycle. When it comes to especially anything high carb, high starch. And when I'm talking about carb and starches, I mean anything white, brown, or yellow. So that's where we got to start to make some specifics here is those grain-free chips are just a bunch of carbs. Now they're a better source of carbs. They're usually things like almonds. They're not corn. They're not wheat. They're not rice. Those are what we call the simple carbohydrates. Now simple carbs are pretty much what? Pure sugar. At least as far as your body's concerned. That's what the average person doesn't understand. A cup of rice and a cupcake, no different to your internal organs. At least as far as what your body has to do to process that food. So that's where a lot of people get off and get confused. They say, Jordan, I don't like sugar. I don't have a sweet tooth at all. You like salty stuff? Oh, I love pretzels. It's the exact same thing. It just doesn't taste sweet going in. But as far as your liver and your pancreas are concerned, it's just a bunch of stuff that's going to turn straight to glucose. So that's where a lot of people get confused too. Because they're eating these foods that they won't even consider or they never even thought twice about being something that's going to cause them to overeat. I kind of call it the OEC effect. You ever been to hibachi? What happens? You can't stop eating food. That's because it's extremely, not just high energy and carb, it's also high salt. So the reason you're craving that, or these are essential things that your body needs. That's the problem too, is you got to go way back in human history. Remember, calories are supposed to be hard to find. It's only within the last 100 or so years, they're everywhere. So you're still operating as that person who's walking through the forest hoping they find something to eat. The problem, you find something every 10 minutes. More importantly, you can get in your car and go to any restaurant, any grocery store, at any point, and get any item you want. So this is where our brain is kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. It hasn't caught up to how much our society has actually changed. So that's what's sort of getting us bogged down in the mud. When you look around your average grocery store, is it mostly fruits and vegetables, or what are the 19 middle aisles made out of? Boxes and bags and cans of white, brown, and yellow stuff. So in a way, you've kind of been set up. You're in a world that most of the foods you eat are going to make you hungry. So that's what I also want to talk about too. Because again, even all carbs are not made equally. Y'all may know this, but if it grows out of the earth, guess what? It's a carb. So that means kale is a carb, just like popcorn is a carb. But the difference, has anyone in here ever binged on kale? Just overeaten kale salad? So why would that be? Why is one kale one you can almost have to force yourself to eat? One you can't stop eating. So it's this beautiful thing called fiber. So that's the other side of this whole story here too, is the two F's. That's what I always get back to. Welcome up. No, you're fine. You can have a seat wherever. The two F's. Those typically tend to be your best friends when it comes to this whole food thing we're doing. Because fat and fiber both will physically make you feel full. So you cannot overeat kale. You can't overeat asparagus. You can't overeat broccoli. More importantly, you really can't overeat any fats. That's why I call that jokingly kind of the cheesecake effect. After a big meal, if you order cheesecake, you get 3-4 bites in, what happens? Ugh, I'm good. That's because your body says, hey, fat's going to take that 45 minutes to an hour, not 10 minutes to process. So your biology will actually stop you. Why? It's protecting you. Same thing with fiber. Now, the best thing about fiber is it never turns to sugar. So that's where this gets even more interesting. That's why we call it fiber. It goes straight through us. Now, it's not actually for you, it's for your gut flora, but that's another topic for another time. We don't have time to go down that route. So those are why those two foods will physically fill you up and stop you. So that's what's going on. If you look at most of our plates, this might not be most of y'all's plates in here because y'all are naturally you clients, but think about the average American. What are they eating for dinner and lunch? A hamburger with french fries and a liquid sugar drink? Of course they're hungry in 20 and 30 minutes. How could they not be? A pizza, pasta, all of these different things that we've been told are just normal foods that you eat, especially y'all. Y'all remember the food pyramid, don't you? What was the bottom of the food pyramid? It was white, brown, and yellow. Who do y'all think made the food pyramid, by the way? Food companies. They're the ones who pay. By the way, dairy is not a food group, but it got paid to put on the thing. They wanted to have the glass of milk. So, well, most of what you think you know about food has been sold to you. It's called marketing, and it works. So that's what I like to do with these. Let's back up. Let's start from scratch and really go over what have people been doing from the start versus what y'all been told to do. And again, once you can't lose weight, once you're having all these issues, you're the problem. It's you. You're not working hard enough. You're overeating. Why don't you have control? Well, if you eat those high reward foods, you don't have a choice. Now, we kind of got to get into that as well, which is why are carbs addictive? As y'all probably noticed with sugar, whether it be Lay's, potato chips, whether it be an Oreo, once you put one in, it's over. You've already lost. The easiest way to think about it is you're the salmon going upstream. You can physically fight nature, but it's going to be hard every step of the way. Whereas you flip those high sugar, high carb things for high fat, high fiber, all of a sudden you're the salmon going downstream. This is easy. Why have I never thought about this? You've never been told this. And again, it's not that you haven't been told. You don't really have access to a lot of high fat or high fiber foods, do you? Think about it. What would be a high fat or high fiber food that's just readily available? Not any in gas stations, not any in most restaurants. So this is where we've kind of gotten messed up in this modern world. We eat simply because it tastes good. Whereas calories are not the main thing you're eating food for. The main thing you're eating food for is you need everything else. Vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids. All those really specific chemicals and molecules that make your body work properly. So that's where if you too start to understand the reason these things are so addictive is because they're supposed to be rare. Think about it. If you were just walking through the woods, is there anything sweet around? No. That's why I always joke. Go find me something sweet and come back. You're going to come back in 3 hours miserable. That was terrible, George. I didn't find anything. Now I'm tired and I'm hungry. Welcome. This is what humans used to do all the time, every single day. That's where you come from, by the way. So that's what's going on, is your brain still thinks sugar is this super rare thing it finds every blue moon. Because again, what is the high source of sugar in nature? It's two things. It's fruit and it's honey. So if it's not one of those two things, humans didn't eat anything sweet ever. So you got to remember too, honey is kind of special. It's guarded by these special little evil creatures that will attack you if you try to get it. Fruit is what? Seasonal. So these are things that you're not supposed to even have access to for huge chunks of the year. Meaning, when you find a blueberry, you know what your brain does? Eat as much as you can. Everything you don't use, I say is fat. So that's where this kind of gets back into the other side of all this. Your brain doesn't realize this. So as soon as you put one chip, one Oreo, one blueberry, one almond in, it's going to try to get you to overeat. Because it says, listen, if you get into excess energy, that's not a problem. Finding calories for the last 1,000 years has been hard. Anything you don't use, we got you. This beautiful little molecule called insulin. Now, I'm sure y'all are very familiar with insulin, yes? So all insulin is to your body essentially is the fat storage hormone. If you get into extra energy, your body does not waste it. It is extremely efficient, meaning your pancreas secretes insulin, it grabs that excess sugar, stores it as fat. Where does it store it? Right here. Well, that's why y'all probably noticed too. Is there any limit to how much fat a human can put on? There's really not. If you keep eating, your body will just keep adding fat, because it thinks there's no way that this is going to ever be too much. Welcome to 2020. All of a sudden, we have complete access to high sugar, high calorie foods, not just every day, from the day we're born. There was never a time when we weren't eating those foods. So that's what's going on. So your body says, look, I'm going to just stick this stuff away and save it for later because I know winter time is coming. That's what we forget. We have Christmas and Thanksgiving and New Year's, right? Wintertime used to mean we may not all be alive on the other side of this. So that's hard-coded into your DNA. More importantly, about every 5 to 10 years, there was some type of famine, some type of natural disaster, something that interrupted the food supply. So the reason your body stores and holds on to fat so strongly and quickly and loses it so slowly as it goes, this is what survivors did. That's why I always joke with my clients. People like me died off. We did not make it through the tough winter. I don't have enough fat on my body. But that's what's going on. All these people say, Jordan, I can't lose weight anymore. Of course you can. Your body thinks it's doing you a favor. Because once you get onto that stuff, the body says, I'm going to save this until I absolutely have to use it. Because that's the next side of this too. Let's break down what's going on here. You got 2 different accounts. You got a checking account, you got a savings account. So how often y'all dip it into y'all savings account? Just willy-nilly? Like, oh, let's just take $5,000 out. That's no big deal. That's how your body treats fat. It will not burn fat unless what? It absolutely has to. And that's what you got to start thinking. This is where keto came from, y'all. This is where all this new intermittent fasting and all this stuff started to come from. Meaning, you can't outwork this. The body does not use this unless it has to. That's why people even that go to the gym, they're lifting weights, they're doing all this, they still can't get rid of this pooch. You're not going to. As long as you keep running a surplus here, the body says, I'll always take that little 300-400 calories extra and store it away. Store it away, store it away. So that's why long term, you never physically can outwork a bad diet. Now, we've all been 20. We all were in college and high school, and it was easy, right? Once those growth hormones stop producing themselves, usually around 30, 35, you have a huge hormonal shift in your body. That's why all of a sudden most people say, yeah, 30, I felt like I hit a brick wall. No, you finally are reaping what you've been sowing all these years. More importantly, you don't have the bounce back anymore. So now you're just starting to feel those decisions you've been making for the last 3 decades. So the reason losing the fat is so difficult is because even if you, let's just say we're at the gym. The average person who goes to the gym is going to do what? I'm going to grab a power bar and a Gatorade, right?
Before the workout.
Yeah,
Right?
this is carbs, y'all. It's quick energy. I'm about to go work out, right? Well, what are you working out for? If you're working out to try to build muscle, you're working out to try to gain strength, that's totally fine. If you're working out to lose weight, you just shot yourself in the foot. Because if you do the rough math, a power bar, I looked this up the other day, it was about 210 calories per bar. Gatorade's about 150. So if you eat that and go work out, you're going to have to run about 3 miles, not walk, not jog, run 3 miles to be at net zero. So, any of y'all warming up with a 2.5 mile run before you work out at the gym? The math doesn't add up. That's what people don't understand. That's why you've been lied to all these years that, oh, well, you can eat whatever you want as long as you go to the gym. That's the easiest way to do this calculation in your head. Every mile ran is 90 to 100 calories burned. Every 3 miles on a bike is the same amount, 90 to 100 calories. So unless you run in marathons, that is not going to help you, or more importantly, you don't need all those extra calories. And that's where this whole keto thing comes in. Whereas with carbs, you could easily eat between 5, 6, even 7,000 calories a day in carbs. We'll get to this in a second, but they've actually done studies on this. Whereas with fats, more importantly, with fiber, if you're eating broccoli, you're eating asparagus, you're eating kale, you're eating zucchini, you would be hard-pressed to even get to 2,000 calories in a day. It's because those foods don't make you hungry, whereas the other ones do. They actually did this in a prison population study. They tried to see what was the amount of calories we can add to their diet. The max they could get total for a day was about 1,500 to 2,000 calories of fat. Do y'all know what the upper limit for carbs were? They could not find one. They had to stop them at 10,000 added calories. They said, we can't give y'all any more food. That's your biology. It does not have an off button when it comes to high energy sources because you're not supposed to be able to find it. Same thing, the reasons you like protein. The only reason you like protein is because it's hard to kill deer. It's hard to catch fish. So if you manage to do that, you get a high reward. That's the thing. You can tie all the craving foods, sugars, fats, salts, all of them. They all go back to the essential nutrients that are important. The problem, there's too much of them nowadays. So once you start to realize, okay, it does not matter how hard I work out, how am I actually going to get this to go away then? That's when this whole ketosis thing comes in. Now, ketosis, intermittent fasting, they're parts of the same whole. Ketosis is just basically a fancy science word for fat burning. That's just your body is using you as the battery. Now, you can put in exogenous fat. That just means outside. If you eat fat, your body burns fat. So that's what they're doing when they're doing full-blown ketosis. They're eating really high fat, just enough protein, adequate protein, enough to make sure you don't lose muscle mass, you don't have any wasting or any of that type of thing. Then they're doing very, very, very low carb. The reason you have to do that is because you have two pathways in your body. You have ketogenesis and glucogenesis. Now, just my favorite comparison is humans and rivers. We're all the same. We're all nature. We take the path of least resistance. We do not work harder than we have to. Meaning, glucogenesis takes about 10 to 15 minutes. Ketogenesis takes about 45 minutes to an hour. So if you had to go to work and you had a 10-minute option or an hour option, which one are you picking? I'm going a 10-minute route. Welcome to why you like carbs. It's really that simple. It's just simple math. The body says, I'm programmed not to work harder than I have to. So that's what's so nice about these things is once you start to understand what's going on behind the scenes, you can tap into this. You can make very tiny little tweaks to your diet and all of a sudden you get cravings, not even having them anymore. Well, you didn't really change anything. You just changed what you were putting in and your body will respond to that. No,
You
please.
said not work harder than we have to, but that goes back to where because you may or may not find something?
Precisely.
Okay.
Well, no, and that's the other thing. Another thing you may not know, this is a slight detour off topic, but the human brain is actually programmed to do that. The most intensive calorie thing you do is what? Think. That's why people don't think. Welcome to our society.
Wow.
That takes a ton of energy because this is a huge brain. That's why actually humans are extremely rare. No other animal has a brain this big. That's what we put all our resources into. We don't have claws. We don't have this fur. We're not really fast. We can outthink you. The problem is over time that becomes a problem because unless you're going to keep catching fish every single day, we're talking 6,000 to 7,000 years ago, that may not be viable. So your brain does this thing for you. That's why a lot of times we look at something, we just glance at it, we make an assumption, we look away. That's to save calories. That's all that is. So these things are, again, that's why I say all of this is hard programmed into you from the basic survival standpoint. If I use less calories, I pass my genes on. The person who uses more calories doesn't pass their genes on. Again, it's that simple. The person who ran away from the line faster, they pass their genes on. The people who put fat on really fast and really easily, they survive. The ones who lost it really slow, they survive. It just really comes down to that over time. That's now what we're reaping in 2020. We think it's us. We think, okay, I don't have control of this. No. If you put that in, and that's for me too. That's all my favorite saying is people say, I like sugar, guys. But I have to keep that in control and check. Because I'm made of the same stuff y'all are. So if you start to tweak your diet though, when you start to get these high fiber and fat vegetable things in, the cravings are gone. You don't even have an issue wanting those foods all the time. Because the body says, once you start burning fat, I got you. That's what it's prepared for. Think about what a hunter and a gatherer is. If you wake up in the morning, you leave your tent, you don't know what you're gonna find, more importantly, if you're gonna find something. So that's what you gotta back up to as well. The amount of eating we do today is so dramatically higher than it's ever been. Because if you think about what breakfast is, by the way, breakfast is not the most important of the day. That is a Kellogg phrase and slogan. So if you own a breakfast food company, you think you'd want people eating breakfast? Of course. All breakfast means is break fast. So you've been sleeping all night. What are you going to break your fast with? So you've got to break down the way human society used to work. There was no unions and 9-to-5s and commutes and all these types of things. You woke up before the sun, you broke your fast, you went and worked all day in the field, and then you came back. That's it. There's no all these 3 meals a day. It's also a new concept that did not exist. So we're getting into these huge amounts of calories because we've been told to. Well, Jordan, I was in kindergarten. We had breakfast, and we had snack time, and then we had lunch, and then we had snack again, and then we went and played, and I ate dinner, and then I had snack. Well, yeah, if you are a food company, I want y'all to think there's 9 meals a day. What are y'all talking about? That's what y'all have to understand. What you came from and what we're doing now are so opposites. That's why we're having all these. What's the number one disease we struggle with right now? Diabetes. It's diabetes. It's quickly becoming not just all the other metabolic issues, but cancer. Also a food-related one. All of these things have to do with you're wearing out the machine. And again, it goes back to sort of sugar. I actually talked to somebody about this today specifically. When you get into sugar and all that stuff, think about the average person 4,000 years ago. How many insulin spikes a day do you think they had? They might not have an insulin spike for a month. Exactly. The average American has about 10. I've actually looked this up in the map. Just if you eat the average American meal of a muffin and some orange juice, insulin spike. That's why you're hungry at 10 a.m., by the way. That's not actual hunger. Your blood sugar is dropping. So you eat some nabs, and your insulin spikes. And then you eat a pizza, and your insulin spikes. And then you eat another snack. So you've already worked this organ more than it was used to working for an entire year. That's what's going on with us. Our bodies can't keep up. The other thing is when you eat all these foods, the reason we feel the number one symptom we see in natural you is what? Fatigue. It don't matter if you got headaches, if you can't sleep, your back hurts, joints, everybody's tired. Why? You don't get anything for free, by the way, guys. If you put something in your mouth, the amount of machine movement that takes to process, break down, distribute, reassemble, remove as waste, that's not free energy. That takes your energy. So to sort of get back to the way fasting is, that's what one of the biggest benefits of fasting are. When you're not eating, guess what the inside of this body looks like? It's quiet. There's nothing happening. My liver's not geared up doing anything. My pancreas is sitting there relaxing. My small intestines isn't absorbing. My stomach acid isn't increasing. My thyroid's not running. So that's the irony in us overeating now. Every time you do that, you're constantly running the machine, Well, then it breaks sooner than y'all expected to. Y'all are mad. What did you expect? You ran yours twice as much as it was supposed to be. This is kind of what happens. That's what's so interesting about this, is once you step back and start to actually see and understand these things, you go, duh, of course these things are going on. It makes a lot more sense. And that's why fasting is truly so beneficial. Again, you got to think about what fasting is, and that's why it kind of ties into ketosis. If you don't eat, if everyone in this room right now had to go 3 days without food, are any of us going to be dead?
Yes, because I'm going to kill a few of them.
So yes, welcome to Hangry. This is a carb eater. Nice to meet you, carb eater. We're all fabulous. So goodbye.
And my favorite
But
way
yes.
of burning calories is chewing.
Exactly. You might outpace yourself, though. But yes, exactly. So that's the thing, is you're not going to die. So what is that? What's actually going on that you don't have to actually eat? Because what's the biggest number on the back of nutrition facts? Calories. That's all you're told. You count your calories, make sure you don't get too many points. Well, it turns out the only time you need to count calories or any of those types of things are when you're eating high-calorie foods. When you switch over to kale and Brussels sprouts, guess what you don't have to worry about? The calories that are in Brussels sprouts. Because more importantly, is it's about a third of the average dense, think breads, pastas, those types of things. More importantly, you're going to stop eating Brussels sprouts. If you get 6 in, you go, I'm good. That's what's nice about these foods is what you're used to having to do is physically, well, I want another cookie, but I've already had my points for the day. No, you're torturing yourself. You're doing this wrong. Whereas when you get into those high fiber and high fat foods, they'll stop you. That's what's so crazy about this. Now, most people look at me like, Jordan, I can't fast. Turns out you can't. Because every person you've ever known or come from has fasted, whether they meant to or not. And that's what you got to think about hunters and gatherers. First off, you wake up in your tent 6,000 years ago. Is there breakfast ready for you? No. You get up, the first thought that went through an ancient person's head was, what am I going to eat today? Not is my wife happy, or my kids doing good in school, I hope I get that promotion at my job. What am I going to eat today? So you wake up and you start walking. So welcome to fasting. Humans had huge chunks of time where we did not eat. So that's what's kind of ironic about today's society. We're mostly full, looking and not hungry. Most humans were hungry all the time, very small windows of being full. That's why our bodies act like this. So when you're walking around through the forest, do you want the fuel that you have to put in every 15 minutes? No. That's why carbs are not that efficient long term. They're great if you're running or doing some sort of exercise like that, but that's when the body wants to use this. Hey, let's use that one that we have stored on us that will slowly burn in the background. That's what fat's made for. Now, that's also the only time your body will use fat, when there's no other choice. So that's when you get into sort of kind of this intermittent fasting thing, which is periods of. That's all it means. Intermittent fasting is not 2-3 day fast. That means every single day for usually about 12, sometimes 18, sometimes 23. Depends on how intense of intermittent fasting you personally want to do. I myself, I usually get about 12 to 16-ish hours every day. So again, there's no rule here. There's no, oh, if you don't get to 18, you're not even doing it. No, don't listen to those people out there. Trust Jordan. So that's what you got to realize too. Even in these small windows, when you start to not eat, your body does a lot of interesting things that you're probably not used to. First and foremost, brain fog, gone. Why? It goes back to two things. One is when you're not eating all these foods, you ever had too many apps open on your iPhone? You got like 38, you're like, my phone's being slow, and you check it, it's got like 15 apps open. That's what's going on every time you eat. So the reason most people have brain fog when they get to the office in the morning is they had a McGriddle and some orange juice. So there's their liver, their pancreas, stomach, small intestines, brain, all this. So the reason you can't remember what room you walked into is because your body wants you to sit down. It says, hey, human, you got into a bunch of energy. Sit down and be still so I can process this for you. Whereas when you're fasting, your brain does an interesting thing. Besides not having all the background apps to run, you've freed up some mental space. More importantly, when you don't eat, your brain sort of goes into hyper-awareness mode. Meaning, let's go back thousands of years. If you haven't eaten for 2 or 3 days, how much attention you think you're going to start paying to your surroundings? Meaning, you better notice that piece of fruit that everybody else walked under and missed. You better notice that bush shake and kill that rabbit, or you don't eat. So it's kind of interesting. Your brain actually turns these things on for you. It will clear your focus because it goes, guys, we have to pay attention. He still hasn't eaten, and it's been several hours. So these are things that if you eat 3 square meals a day, any snacks in between, you don't even know what I'm talking about. You're going, wait, what? I thought I just had ADD. I thought I was just slow. No, you're doing it to yourself. So that's when these types of intermittent fasting are really just most important, is because when the easiest way to do intermittent fasting or any of these ketosis type things is whenever you stop eating, whether that be 4 p.m., whether that be 11 p.m. That's what's nice about this. There's no rules. You can actually eat late night snacks, any of those types of things. It's all about the window you create. So if you stop eating at 8 p.m., by 8 a.m., guess who's on a 12-hour fast? That's what people don't realize is you've already slept through the big chunk of your fast. So if you can do something like a lot of people, y'all heard of bulletproof coffee, keto coffee, is that ringing any bells? These are sort of the popular trendy ways to do it. By putting that fat in, what is your body going to burn for fuel? It hasn't had any energy in 12 hours, and you put fat in. The body goes, guys, we don't really want to. This takes a lot longer. It's a lot more difficult. We got to use this fat. So by putting a little bit of fat in, you sort of get the ball rolling. You get it going down the hill. So once it uses up the fat you ate, guess what it turns on? All right, guys, we've already been doing this for the last hour and a half. Let's start using some of this because we don't have a choice. That's why you will never be able to lose fat if you don't do some sort of intermittent fasting or ketosis type burning. Now, the other thing I hear too a lot of times is, well, I go to the gym in the morning. Jordan, I can't do that. If you really want to lose weight, go exercise while you're fasting. Because again, it goes to the same principle of the 3 days without eating. If you exercise without eating, you're gonna die. Your body's just gonna give up. I don't have any energy. I have to stop. No, actually it speeds up that fat metabolism. The body goes, hey, not only are they not eating in the last 12, 14 hours, they're running uphill. This is not good. So it actually speeds up how much fat you can start burning and moving. So again, you've been lied to. I know it doesn't feel good to hear, but that's what's going on. You're not crazy. You're not making these things up. The approaches they're trying to get you to do are to make sure you keep your gym membership and you eat their food constantly. So that's what they want. So the further away you get, it turns out this is really easy. All this stuff starts to easily go away. You just have to make some really, really tiny tweaks inside of your actual diet. So did y'all have any other specific questions? Because I'm going to kind of move into sort of fitness and how that does kind of actually play into some of this.
Yeah, what about green tea in the morning before you go work out?
So green tea is fine. Really, if you're gonna do fasting, this is what a lot of people don't understand. You can eat anything with no calories. So coffee is okay. There's no calories in coffee. You can drink water. Green tea is fine as long as you don't sweeten it. Remember, honey is sugar. I don't care that it came from insects. It's still sugar. So it doesn't help with your allergies. Never do anything like that. Honey is sugar by another name. So yes, green tea is totally fine. And green tea actually is a what? Actually gets you to start burning actually helps increase your metabolism. So it actually will speed up some of your fat burn.
Opens up your veins.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a difference in the, I guess the keto or just the effect of raw food or vegetables versus cooked?
So yeah, well, so that's actually a really interesting question because yes and no for sure. Raw and cooked are way different. Mostly because there's things that are in foods like broccoli. But as soon as you steam it, you lost about half of it. So that's a whole other thing besides keto. And that's the thing, a lot of people don't realize, they think keto is just high fat, right? They think you're just eating butter and coconut oil and all that all the time. The other side of keto are the high fiber vegetables. Like a perfect example of a keto meal is a salad with olive oil as your dressing. That's keto. None of that is carbs that can turn to sugar. That's mostly, again, high fat. That's going to keep you burning fat. So the fiber is actually the biggest part of keto nobody talks about. Because you can eat all kinds of vegetables. They don't burn as sugar. So your body goes, that's why you won't overeat broccoli. Your body says, hey, stop. I can't use any of this stuff you're eating. Whereas you start eating, a perfect example, popcorn. One bite in, body says, eat the whole bag. I'm going to save every bit of it. So that's what's weird. A lot of these foods physically make you stop eating, like the raw vegetables, things like that. Where you need to, honestly, any type of dense green leaf, that's what you want to kind of focus most of your food on. The further away you start getting into carrots, where your sugar content's going up, start getting into like even beets, potatoes, the tuber vegetables, you're starting to get back into high starch. So there's balance. Not all vegetables are created equal either. So no, that was a good question.
Jordan, so are you saying beets aren't as good?
No, beets are fine, but it depends on what you're trying to do. Trying to burn fat? No. They got all kinds of good nutrition in them too. And again, as you've probably noticed with beets, you're gonna overeat beets. Yeah, no.
They get a lot of sugar in there.
They can. Again, candied beets, yes. Regular beets, no. That's why I say we also change a lot of our foods too. Like I said, strawberries aren't that great. You dip strawberries in sugar, next thing you know, the whole plate's gone. What happened? You put the high reward food there. And again, that's what this ultimately goes back to. Your body only has one reward system. Whether it be drink, drugs, sex, food, it all presses the same button, the feel-good button. The difference, do you have to smoke cigarettes every day to live? No. You have to eat every single day. So they've got you. You've already lost. You're the one who's messed up. Because you go to a grocery store, every aisle is just gonna make you overeat. Versus, that's why they try to tell you, where do they want you to shop? Don't go in the middle. Make sure you stay on the edges because that's the actual real live food. That's why they have to keep it cold. Otherwise, that's why I remind people, pasta will sit on your shelf for how long? Sugar will sit on your shelf for how long? That's because they're dead foods. There's not anything living or active to them anymore.
Nutrition.
There's nutrition, but what type of nutrition? Just calories. There's not anything else. There's not any vitamins anymore usually. There might be some.
Fiber.
The fiber, that's the big thing. Like especially those shelf stable ones like pasta. Pasta is just pure carbohydrate through and through. That's why it won't spoil. That's why most of the time too, specifically, that's what's wrong with white wheat flour. Do any of y'all remember when whole wheat flour used to be hard as a brick? Right? It used to be unedible. It was literally as hard as this wall. All of a sudden, even the whole wheat is soft as a pillow. So that's because the reason they had to do that is that you have the bran, which is all your fiber when it comes to wheat. Then you have the endosperm and the germ. The germ is the fat. Now, y'all probably know fats go rancid. So fats will spoil and your whole flour will go bad. If you isolate just the endosperm, which is the starch, it'll sit on your shelf for 10 years. So that's what happened. That's why I tell you, this isn't some conspiracy to make you sick. It's economics. If I sell a food that doesn't spoil, I can sell as much of it till they want. They let it sit on their shelf until they go. We throw away most of our fresh food in this country. About half of what goes to a supermarket goes into the trash directly. It doesn't get bought. The shipping got delayed 2 days and it's spoiled. So that's the thing though. That's what you actually need. That's what this body is actually made of. Not the stuff that can just sit forever. Can you just sit forever? So stop putting the stuff in that can too. That's not going to help replenish or rebuild any of this body. So, again, great question. Any other ones? Yes, ma'am.
If you freeze spinach or kale, like if I'm doing it the green shade, if I freeze it before the expiration date that's on it, then it's fine for me to keep using it as long as it's frozen.
For sure. Yeah, frozen, and strangely enough, the best vegetable to get is fresh, but second is frozen. Frozen is better than any can, any other form like that, because freezing actually helps preserve it. 'Cause when you freeze it, basically think about you just slowed down time. That's all you did. That those reactions can't happen as fast. So freezing is actually the most ideal for any food. Not all foods take well to it. For example, don't freeze your cucumbers. I found that out. Too much water, it breaks. It looks ugly when it comes out. So no, good question. Yeah, so freezing is totally fine. And a lot of times that date is just a suggested date. Don't. That's not the gospel either. That's just, hey, I throw this out and come buy more kale.
It always goes out beforehand because there's CYA.
No, exactly.
So the
Right.
date-
No, exactly. Again,
If they say it goes out in March, it's probably June or July just to be
and
safe.
again, economics. It's a lot cheaper not to have a lawsuit. So let's just move that date up. Who does it hurt? Well, them. They throw it away and they come buy more. Don't hurt us. So no, exactly. A lot of this is just simple economics. I need stuff that I can grow and doesn't, or I can buy and doesn't go bad. That's why you'll never see fresh food in a gas station. It's always just dead processed stuff. Any other ones?
Yeah, so keto, say you eat 7 or 8 cups of greens and stuff, the protein is, how much protein?
You're talking about
On
total?
a keto, yeah, for the day, or
The thing is,
how does that work? There's fats in protein, I mean, in like pieces of meat.
right.
How does that count towards your fat macros? How does that?
So that's the number one thing. Most people who screw up keto are just eating, they're just like, I just eat steak all the time. Are you losing any weight? No, not really.
That's
That's because protein also turns to sugar. That's the thing. That's kind of the Achilles heel of that whole Atkins diet, was the protein also turns to sugar. The only thing that does not turn to sugar are fat and fiber. Fat stays fat, it gets stored as fat, it gets burned as fat. The body can turn protein and carbs into fat to store it short term, otherwise they turn into glucose. So typically with protein, it depends on you. That's what I'm saying. Now you're getting into the individual person. You got to take your macros. You got to get a calculator out. What's my height? What's my weight? You got to do it by 0.2, by like 0.08 to figure out your grams of protein a day. So typically, average person will shoot for about maybe 30 to 50 grams, which really isn't a lot once you start to look at how much is in stuff. You go, oh my God, Jordan, I can eat like one little piece of salmon. Welcome to keto. It's not that fun. That's why you can get a lot of the benefits from keto just by doing the intermittent fasting, just by making these what we call feeding and fasting windows. Most people is about 18 hours of not eating. They only eat between noon and 6 p.m. That's where all their food comes from. As soon as 6 p.m. gets here, they shut it off, make their body go back to using them as the battery.
Same the size of your hand, the protein.
It's rough. You can, a lot of these you can figure out, like, you can just type in like ounces of beef, it'll give you on Google the protein in grams of that. And that's what I was saying, that's when you get into like super high. But as y'all have probably seen in some of these bars, it says 20 grams of protein. Guys, that's marketing. That's sugar to your body. It's not going to be turned into anything else. So protein is kind of the new fancy buzzword people like to use to get you to buy it. But to your body, it's called protein genesis. It's going to break that down into sugar. So that's the thing, is your body will turn every single thing you put into sugar except for fat and fiber. That's why those foods make you feel full. That's why you can eat lima beans all day long, but you're never going to overeat spinach. Anyone ever overeat spinach? I think so, just making sure. There's always that one person who goes, kind of like
I
spinach.
have a green spinach.
Ah, so
it's pretty
you could
good.
add fat to your spinach. Right?
And Brussels sprouts, yeah, I can eat one with that.
Exactly. So I did want to talk a little bit about fitness and what we really need to use fitness for. Because again, you're not going to outwork your diet. That's where this all starts. If you want to lose weight, it's right here. That's the end of the story, no other questions. The thing you need fitness for, though, that's when you get into actually taking care of this body. Exercise increases muscle strength, obviously, increases your bone density, which is a thing we struggle with. We have the highest rates of osteoporosis in the modern world, in the United States. Also starts to help your cardiovascular system and all of these other things. More importantly, y'all know what exercise really is? It makes you happy. Why? Why does exercise release endorphins? That doesn't make any sense. Let's go back. Remember what we are. We're a bunch of ancient humans stuck in a modern world. Meaning, your brain got used to, if this person gets up, moves around, and finds stuff, that's a good sign. That's a chance we're going to live. If this person sits in their tent still all day and sits in front of a computer and doesn't move and doesn't interact with anybody, welcome to why we have so much depression and anxiety. We're going against our biology. Our bodies can't figure out why we're sitting still all day. Never in our history have humans sat alone in a desk and not moved. To your brain, that's not viable. Please get up. Please go do. I know that doing equals success. I know that not doing equals death. So that's how simple you really got to start to understand this thing. We think our bodies are just this, more importantly, we think we're smart. We think we know what we need to do. Our bodies are like, why do you wake up every morning, go into that office and work with those people you don't like, and spend all day there and then come home and then go back to sleep? What is this? I know you're not happy, so why are you pretending to be? That's where I always tell you can't trick your body. And that's what exercise is. It's tapping into that ancient method of, hey, when they sweat, that's good. That means they're working hard. That means they're getting something done, whether it's building a tent, whether it's hunting for food. So that's what exercise really is. That's why exercise is important. But it's not for what you think it is. It's not for trying to get your belt line smaller. It's just trying to strengthen your bones, strengthen your muscles, get your heart healthy, release all the good chemicals that are locked in your brain. That's what people don't understand. We want to use drugs in our day, right? We want to do all these different things. We want to take Xanax to feel better. We want to take all these pills and chemicals. You realize your brain can make dopamine, right? You do not need any sort of outside chemical. You've just got to do the things that make it release that. And especially in the right way, because again, of course, sugar will do that too. Some of these things we call vices will do that too. But there's natural ways as well. Exercise being the easiest one. Because when you go and do that, the reason you feel good is not only did you release toxins, you increase your muscle strength, your body just also goes, hey, we're going to live longer now. We just literally put in work and built up our strength. We've now made ourselves more viable. The other thing, more importantly, we know foods do this. We've talked about epigenetics a couple of times in these. But exercise, one of the craziest things about exercise, they found people that worked out in their 20s lived longer than people. Both groups stopped working out in their 40s. They lived about 5 to 10 years longer because those effects carry over. What happens is when you're exercising, you got to really break down what exercise is. So why so many people do not need to exercise. Everyone's rushing to the gym right now, aren't they? It's January. It's 2020, right? New year, new me. So you run out to the gym Well, your body goes, hey, you've been sedentary for 9 months. What are you doing? I'm not made. Because exercise is actually a mini controlled stress. It's actually the same thing fasting is. You're putting your body in these isolated, controlled stresses. So the interesting thing about that is if I told most people, hey, I could add some stress to your life, what would you say? I'm good. Turns out stress is actually a good thing. When your body is stressed, what does it have to do? Adapt. So what it really does is it turns on your survival genes. Those genes that burn fat and make sure it mobilizes quickly, those get turned on when you exercise. So exercise really is kind of synergistic with this, but it's only about 10 to 15%, whereas diet is the other 80%. So besides doing all those different things, fasting does too. They've actually done studies. Why the number one group of people that live to be over 100? Holocaust survivors. Why would that be? They literally went through hell. So being in that environment in their teens, 20s, and 30s, what do you think their body did? Their body went and said, we will turn on every single survival gene, good, bad, and ugly. Because again, we know the reason the body doesn't turn all of these on for everybody is there's some consequences. Sometimes you turn genes on, you might live longer, but you go blind. So that's what's interesting is that most of your genes control 4 or 5 different things in your bodies. But for people who were in concentration camps, being starved, under enormous amounts of stress, no sleep, their bodies literally went to the extreme. That's why nowadays you see there's more people, World War II veterans as well. I'm sure y'all probably noticed. Well, we got all of them living to be over 100. They went through extreme stress. Turns out that's not a bad thing. You know who does die early? The trust fund baby. The guy who sat on his butt all day, never did anything, never sweated, never stressed, nothing. That's why he's got this big gut, and he's not healthy, and he doesn't feel good. I said, I've never had to adapt to anything. We've always had excess. And that ends up over time causing you to die sooner than live longer. So it's interesting. We think of stress as a bad thing. Stress is what we're supposed to encounter. You're supposed to have to run from lions and be cold and look for food and hope you find something. That's what we're made to do versus all of a sudden we have no interactions with that. So that's why fasting, exercise and stuff like that, if you can get tiny controlled events, that's what you want. I don't want you to go run a marathon. You're not ready yet. But if you run every day and then you run further and you run further and you run further, next thing you know, I'm running marathons. I don't even know what happened. Your body is the most adaptable thing on the planet. That's what people really don't think about. Whatever you throw at your body, it can do. The reason we know this, look at the Eskimo population. That's what I always tell people because people are so scared of keto, right? So tell them about the Inuit. Inuit are what we call Eskimos. Are there trees in the Arctic tundra? Are there any plants that they can eat? So that's where ketosis started, by the way. They live off meat and whale blubber for about 75% of the year. So we know human populations have been living like this exclusively for thousands of years, isolated. So that's not an issue. We also have people that live in the Amazonian jungle. They eat pretty much 9,000 different plants. They can do it. Whatever you throw at your body, we got people that live in the desert, we got people that live in the tundra, we got everything in between. We got people that live at high altitude, we got people that live at low altitude. What is that? That's the human animal. That's why the human is actually the most successful animal on the planet. We're the only animal that inhabits every single ecosystem on the planet. There's nothing we can't do. So that's what's even more interesting is people say, well, I can't do that. You haven't started. That's all you told me is you haven't made your body start doing it. So, any other questions? And I think we can pretty much wrap up unless y'all had any specifics.
I have one.
No, please.
So I know you mentioned earlier about the base calories for a body,
Yes, ma'am.
1,050. So is there a base for exercise? Like I know sometimes you hear at least 20 minutes a day or 30 minutes.
So it goes back to that number. You're going to burn about 90 to 100 calories for every mile ran and about every 3 miles biked. So that's just an easy rough for average people. So yeah, welcome. Most people burn like 25 calories at the gym because they're talking, they're getting their towel, they're walking around, and you're not doing anything. So yeah, no, that's the problem with it. It's incredible how little calories you actually burn. Most of it is running your liver, beating your heart, flexing your muscles, making hormones. That's what actually takes energy. Thinking. That's why nobody thinks hard about anything anymore. It takes your energy. So it's actually, too, that's what's interesting. It's actually adverse to your body. Its natural default is, no, George, stop. don't think too much about this. That's gonna take energy, and I know through 10,000 years of this history, calories good. Calories hard to find, but all of a sudden they're not. So yeah, generally think about it like that. If I ran a mile, I burn about 100 calories.
So don't do minutes, you're saying do miles.
Distance is a lot easier. Now, a lot of times those like the little machines will track for you, but as far as like just a safe bet, distance is what you want to look for, not time. Because again, I know how far you ran. You could work out for 20 minutes and make it a quarter of a mile. You see what I'm saying? That's why walking, that's why I say not walking, not jogging. Run a mile. And you're gonna go, oh my, that was 100 calories. Y'all realize those little tiny Dorito bags are 150, right? So that's what people don't understand. You physically cannot out-exercise a bad diet. There's zero way. Unless you're running marathons a day. If you run 27 miles a day, eat whatever you want. You won't have a word from Georgia.
Yeah, they probably sleep.
What about the resistance exercises?
So resistance training, that is good. That obviously, that's when you start to get into way, way more calorie intensive. Because again, now you're actually forcing that muscle group to burn. Now, that's why swimming is actually the best, because you're using every single group. So it's more of that too. And that's why I use running, because that's just the most easy baseline. But yeah, all those are good. How many miles are you swimming? How many reps are you really doing? And again, the biggest problem too is your arms get tired, right? That's what people don't think about. The reason your arms get tired, why I said, hey, I can't keep up. I can't get this fat and stuff mobilized. You haven't eaten enough calories yet. Stop. So that's why over time too, your arm will get what? Bigger and bigger. That's called adaptation. I said, apparently they lift 100 pounds every day. So hey, let's start putting some of our resources into muscle growth. Hey, they jump every day. You do bone density tests on athletes. NBA players is the highest. Why? They jump 1,000 times a day. So their bodies go, okay guys, we've got to make our bones more dense because apparently this is something this human does. That's the other side of it. Most people think that it's just me, I just don't have it. Have you ever done it? No. Of course he's not going to be good at doing that. So that's the thing. Don't think you're ever locked in. Like this is your genes, this is just how I am. No, if you want to start doing something, even if you're not, it's one of these people that goes into ketosis easily, which is a lot of Americans, because we've eaten carbs our whole life. Start small. Let the ball get rolling. Guess what? Your body will adapt with you. That's its only job, is to help meet and match what you're throwing at it.
A question. Some of my coworkers, they like to eat oatmeal for breakfast, and I know that it's not good because it turns to sugar, but there's also another reason for that, or?
Is there another reason?
Yes.
I mean, oatmeal, again, you know Quaker, right? Our good friend Quaker, the multi-billion national company that makes thousands and millions of dollars off of you eating oatmeal. No, oatmeal's not healthy. Oatmeal's just a bunch of sugar, especially if you get like the maple brown sugar, the banana, the blueberry. Because that's the thing, if you want to know how much sugar's in something, don't just look at grams of sugar, look at total carbs. Because every one of those carbs that doesn't say dietary fiber is sugar, just waiting to be turned to sugar. So I looked up a muffin the other day. The muffin itself had 22 grams of sugar. You know what the total calorie count or carb count was? 54. Okay, so I looked real quick, 4 grams of fiber, so you can subtract that. So you got 50 grams of sugar in this.
That's
So you know how many calories? 350. That's 3.5 miles sitting in your hand. Welcome, guys. Food versus fitness.
Got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
In the fasting mode, and you probably told me this before, I'll just clarify. When you put of course, fat in the coffee, you said drink it unsweetened. Can you put monk fruit in there?
So this is the big stickler that everyone asks, because the problem, you got to think about your body again. You go way back in time. In nature, what tastes sweet?
Honey and.
Sugar. Sugar is the only thing that tastes sweet. So when your brain tastes sweet, whether it be sugar, honey, aspartame, sucralose, monk fruit, stevia, your pancreas starts making insulin as a default.
So you're breaking fast.
Not even. You haven't broken your fast yet, because there are no calories for it to act on. But if your body spends all that time making a hormone, it's going to say, excuse me, would you eat something that I could use this on? Because I spent all that energy creating that. So that's what's wrong with diet sodas. Most people who drink diet soda end up getting their calories from other sources. because their body's still getting an insulin spike because it goes, hey, in my 10,000 years of history, the only time something sweet comes in, I need to make insulin. Well, it makes it and then there's nothing there. So it'll actually start driving your appetite up. So that's the only thing about the monk fruit. You've been doing ketosis or fasting for 9 months, you can start putting some monk fruit in there. Your body's pretty keto adapted. At first, I would say no. It's kind of that weird in-between area where we're not sure, but biologically, it starts to send some mixed signals because the body doesn't want to jump into ketosis because it thinks carbs are coming.
Okay. So would the coffee be coffee, the heavy?
Stevia, monk fruit, all of them. Any of them, yeah.
Whipping cream and.
Well, heavy whipping cream is different. Why?
Because it's fat.
Exactly.
So it would be coffee, the heavy cream, and coconut oil.
Yes. That's
And then-
Jordan's keto coffee.
That's, and then, but no monk fruit, no whatever, no
Yeah.
sweetener for a while.
Ideally. Now, to start, if you absolutely have to, sure. But to get what? The most bang for your buck. That's what I'm about. I want you to get the most effective version. Not, oh, this one tastes good and it's easy. No. Make your body adapt. Give it no choice. All of a sudden you go, I didn't think I'd ever drink coffee without cream or sugar. I don't even like it. What would you think that would be? Your body has changed for you to match what you're doing. That's what y'all forget. Y'all are in charge. Y'all think this thing sends all the signals. You make the choices. So make choices you want it to make.
Green tea with coconut oil.
Gonna be an interesting flavor, but doable. I do it with coffee. Why? Coffee is strong. You cannot taste coconut oil in black coffee.
But what about a dairy-free option for the cream and the coffee?
So we've been looking at this. We looked at coconut milk. Me and Miss Marty did back here. The biggest problem is that a lot of times they add things like guar gum and sugar.
I found one online that does not.
So if they don't, yes, just make sure it says 0% carbs, 0% protein, 100% fat.
Okay.
As long as it says that, you're
Okay.
safe. So no, actually a good question.
It's
What about the goat's milk?
Milk is off. It has to be cream. Why? Cream rises to the top, so it physically separates itself from the liquid protein and sugar because it's a different molecule.
So can you just skip the whole cream part? then?
Yes.
I mean,
Ideally, you would just do black coffee. How many people here just drink black coffee? Oh, 2 out of the 20 that came. So no, I'm with y'all, but it took me about 18 months to get there.
I'm new to drinking coffee, but I do cold brew coffee
Gotcha. Cold's fine.
for fewer acids and it has more caffeine.
Also stronger
Yeah,
taste too. So yeah, cold brew is fine. The only
It just
thing
has to be like a quality coffee and organic so that you can taste the
exactly.
coffee.
So you have to be.
No, that's what I do. I do French press every morning.
You have to be careful, I won't start something else.
Again, most of their drinks are a bunch of sugar. Exactly.
We don't care.
Heavily sprayed, Starbucks they are.
You sound like yeah, that's hilarious. So
Hey, I've come in here being switched every time I go to Starbucks. Well, yeah.
anything else, folks? We can wrap this up. We all gotta go to dinner time, right?
Free.
Yeah. Thank y'all again for coming. If y'all